What is good, guys? M.V.K here back again. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the Opinion Spot, as always. And I'm still wrapping up the rest of you guys' requests for the Opinion Spot. I may do this again down the line with the Opinion Spot. Open up the door, open up the floor for you guys, and see what you guys come up with requests. But wrapping up a lot of these now. But in the meantime, this is a very interesting request. This one comes from Caroline. She had asked me to, basically, she wants to know what other DC stories should be adapted and to animated form and things like that. Now, I do admit, sometimes the animated stuff works better for that are adapted. Some of them. We've done Tower of Babel with Justice League Doom. That was really good. I enjoyed that. We've seen The Death of Superman twice, and I'll even admit the later version of it was better. We've seen, they did Injustice, which I didn't care for. They've done both Superman and Batman. They've done The Girl from Krypton, which was a Superman Batman crossover, and then of course they did Public Enemy. All greats. And of course they even did Flashpoint, which was good. But there are some other DC stories that could have been adapted, that can be adapted, and maybe they should think about it. I'm not saying it's possible, but always it is possible. Never say never, right? Now, Caroline, you didn't give me a specific number, so I decided to do a specific number. I'm giving you 8 stories that I loved from DC that I felt should have been adapted to animated or something like that. These are interesting ones. There are a few Elseworld stories, because we've seen a lot of Elseworld stories get adapted as well, but they are what they are. So let's get into it. So we will go backwards from 8 all the way up to number 1, if that's okay with you. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and let's get started.
8.
As you guys saw, at number 8 on the list, we are going with is Deceased. This was one of the latest Tom Taylor stories. Tom Taylor is to me one of the kings of Elseworld stories, in my opinion. Tom Taylor, great guy, met him, great, good writer. Yes, thank you for doing what you're doing with Nightwing. I love it. Deceased was a good story. It's basically it's DC's version of Marvel Zombies, in a sense. Basically, the story is being narrated by Lois Lane, and a crazy version of the anti-equation basically turns people on Earth into these zombie-like creatures. Everybody, doesn't matter, and there you go. It could work as a film. The series ran, the main story was like 6 parts, and then of course there was all these spin-offs and everything like that, but it could work. It was a good story. Tom Taylor, like I said, king of Elseworld stories. That's what I'm calling him, because he is. It's good stuff. Deceased.
7.
Number 7 on the list we go to is Identity Crisis. I didn't mind Identity Crisis so much. I believe Brad Meltzer is the writer of it, if I remember correctly, and pretty much it was a mystery. It was a mystery story of who killed Susan Dempsey, Elongated Man's wife. And there was all these different twists and turns with it, including the fact that the main suspect, Dr. Light, may have raped Susan and all this other stuff, and also people's minds were wiped of it that didn't remember, because Zatanna wiped everybody's memory, including Batman's, and hence there was a reason for that time afterwards. Batman couldn't trust his old friend Zatanna. So there were a lot of things in that was interesting. It was a thriller story, but I wouldn't mind if they adapted it. But again, who knows? But it was pretty damn interesting. Identity Crisis.
6.
Number 6 on the list is another Elseworld story that I don't think a lot of people remember, but it was really cool and I enjoyed it very much. It's a Batman Elseworld story, and it's called Batman in Darkest Night. In this universe, instead of Hal Jordan being chosen as Green Lantern, it's Batman. And he goes on to be Green Lantern as well as still somewhat be Batman. It was really interesting. It was really cool. I haven't read it in so long, but I was remembering the Elseworld, so I was like, what was that Elseworld story name with Batman became Green Lantern? Oh yeah, Batman in Darkest Night. It was really cool. If you haven't, research it, look it up, try to find it. Pretty cool.
5.
Longbow Hunters. Great series. This is where Green Arrow gets nitty gritty. He gives up all the trick arrows and he's just straight up with an arrow, with real legit arrows. He goes from being from Star City, moves to Seattle, and then of course there's a serial killer out there killing prostitutes and everything like that. And of course we get the introduction of Shadow, all that good stuff. This was one of the greatest Green Arrow stories ever printed. This, I think, if I remember, it came out in the late 80s, but it's a legit story where Ollie did so many different things. Changed his costume, he changed not just his costume, his attitude kind of changed. This was a mystery story and a thriller in the sense of Ollie trying to find this serial killer, and when he does find out, it's just crazy to find out what this serial killer was. So yeah, Green Arrow Longbow Hunter, definitely a great series, great story that should have been adapted in my opinion. Yeah, it's a little bit on the mature side, but we've seen a lot of mature storylines being adapted for DC, just saying.
4.
Number 4 on the list, we go to Wonder Woman. And one of my favorite Wonder Woman stories comes under the writing of one of my favorite writers, Greg Rucka. Greg Rucka's Wonder Woman run is superb in my opinion. And one of those stories, I believe, was his 3rd story arc under his run, and it's called Stoned, or The Eye of the Gorgon. In this 5-part series, 5-part story arc, it is Wonder Woman versus Medusa, who is on a rampage. And not only that, Diana's blind throughout this. Great story. It's a story of how far is Diana to go to protect the people from the Gorgon herself, and just how she will be able to stop her, things like that. Great story. If you've never read it, go find it. I believe DC has put out all of Greg Rucka's Wonder Woman stories in omnibuses. Great story. It's one of my favorites under his run. It just told a great story. You get to see Diana in a different light than just her being the emissary of peace and love and the great princess of the Amazons. No, it goes deep, and it was so good. Stoned / Eye of the Gorgon. I'd love to see a story based around that. I think they kind of adapted something like that, but it didn't feel right. It was in my opinion. But yes, Wonder Woman, stoned, Eye of the Gorgon.
3,
Kingdom motherfucking Come. Sorry. One of the greatest Elseworld stories, the homie himself, Mark Magic Wade. That's my name for him, because he always sprinkles that magic when this man writes. Mark Wade is one of my favorite writers. I don't care if he's working for DC, he's working for Independence or Marvel. Sprinkles that magic, and his writing is just top notch. Kingdom Come was one of them. Here in this dystopian new world, Elseworld world, pretty much it's the old guard versus the new guard. It's the old versus the new young bucks, who now their form of justice is taking it too far. And in that case, an older, wiser Superman comes out of retirement to teach these young bucks a lesson of how to do it the old school way. It's old school versus new school, but it was so damn good writing. I am shocked to this day why there's never been a Kingdom Come story, animated adaptation of it. It boggles me. It really does. It really does. But it should be. Kingdom Come is just great.
2,
Here's another one. Green Lantern, Blackest Night. Blackest Night, of course, the story of, and yes, I can understand it's a long story. I get that. So was Flashpoint. So was a couple other, and they were able to adapt it. And you telling me that you couldn't adapt one of the greatest Green Lantern stories of Green Lantern versus Black Hand and the Black Lanterns? This would be, to me, this would be the sequel to the #1 that I have. But yeah, I would still love to see it. To see the Black Lantern Corps and all the... You can even do this as an Elseworld story or something like that. But again, it would be great to see, Hal and all them fighting Black Hand, who is resurrecting dead heroes and villains and things like that. It'd be so cool. I'm just saying, it could be done if done right, with the right writer and everything like that. Blackest Night.
1,
And the #1, and my #1 on the list. Caroline, I hope you enjoyed this. What's next? Simple. The Sinestro Corp Wars. This would be the first, and then leading to Blackest Night. Some of I was gonna go the whole. They kind of already somewhat adapted how, Emerald, Twilight, and all that, going mad and all that stuff, but the Sinestro Wars should have been adapted. And I'm not talking about adapted into what's going on now with the Tomorrowverse, because I don't like what they did with the Tomorrowverse, Hal Jordan. Yeah, I said that. But still, the Sinestro Wars, seeing the Green Lantern Corps finally fight and battle the newly formed Sinestro Corps, the Fear Lanterns, and things like that. It would be great to see, but again, I can't see it done in the Tomorrowverse. Some stories that have been adapted in the Tomorrowverse have been pretty good. I've said it before. Long Halloween, I thought was pretty good. There was another Batman story that I thought was really good done in the Tomorrowverse, but at the end of the day, some of them it's got to be more of an Elseworld story, in my opinion. But yes, Sinestro Corps Wars is the #1 in my opinion. So guys, there you have it. Those are some great DC stories I feel could be adapted animated wise. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm looking forward to your your lists. You guys drop your lists, your stories in the comments section down below. Because you guys know I do read the comments. I want comments so we can get into discussions. I want to hear your input as always, because this is the opinion spot where your opinion matters to me. I want to see it. And with that being said, Caroline, thank you for the request. I appreciated it as always. I will see you guys next time for another opinion spot. And what is coming next? Well, it's another request. This one from... You're just gonna have to find out. I'm not gonna tell you. But with that being said, it's the Melbourne Kid saying peace, one love, stay tuned, keep it real. As always, my pack. Deuces.